Hello and welcome to another Booktrib author interview. We're the leading source for book news, reviews, and interviews that you won't want to miss. My name is Cameron Kimball. I'm an editor here at Booktrib, and today I am so excited to be joined by Susan F. Banks, author of the Red Souls trilogy. Susan, it is so nice to be talking to you today.
Very nice to talk to you also, Cameron. Thank you.
Thank you. So far, two books in the trilogy have been published, Red Souls and Wall of Unknowing. Could you walk us through the main storylines for these books?
Sure. It's a story set in present day LA, Los Angeles, and it's about four people in their mid-20s who meet a woman named Jem, who claims to be the guardian of the Astral Gate in Los Angeles. And so the story starts out with basically three questions that these four people have. First of all, is Jem a crazy person? Second question, why is she picking us for this job? She wants them to help her protect Los Angeles from an influx of red souls from the underworld that have gotten around the gate and are flooding through Los Angeles. And they attack people on the streets and drive them into acts of violence. So these four people who I will describe don't really know why they in particular were chosen for this job. And the third question is, what red souls? Because they can't see any red souls. Nobody can see any red souls on the street. Only people with astral sight can see these things. So these four people. There's two sisters named Willett and Audrey, and two guys named Dean and TJ, and they don't know each other at the beginning of this story. And they can't see any red souls on the street, but the arc of the story is how these four people come together as a group and go from disbelief to denial to doubt to incredulity to finally commitment to being members of the Circle of Augustus, which is an ancient fighting force that rises when any part of the world is under attack by underworld entities. Uh, so the four people who become members of the Circle of Augustus are subject to, and that's my dog.
You have a guest today.
Ever. They're subject to challenge after challenge, like I am right now. And Jasper, no. And we follow how they rise to these challenges one after another, and they find resources within themselves to deal with it. So the arc of the story is really the arc of the characters on how they grow in strength and perception and really commitment to people outside themselves, to something outside themselves. Because they start out as very normal people. They have jobs and, they're involved in what they're doing. And, they really don't want to be involved at the beginning. Why me? They keep asking, what do you want me for? But as the story goes along, the reader gets to know why them. And so it's really a growth arc for these people. And by the end of book book 3 is coming out in November. By the end of book 3, they have they're really different people than they are when they start out in book 1.
Oh, that is great to hear. I love a good character arc. So, what was the inspiration, would you say, for the Red Souls trilogy?
Well, I started with the idea of what it would be like for a person uh, who was challenged and assaulted by sound, who couldn't handle sound, and this is the character of Willet. She was born with abnormal anatomy in her inner ears and her brain, and so everything she hears is very, very loud. Uh, if you or I would hear a soft sound, she would hear it clearly. And if you or I would hear a loud sound like a leaf blower or a car or something like that, it would be tremendously loud in her head, to the point where she suffers from severe migraines. Um, so, what would it be like to, not be able to listen to music? I like to listen to music really loud, sometimes, and she couldn't do it, and from her earliest childhood, she couldn't leave the house, she couldn't go to school. She was growing up in New York City, and New York City is a pretty loud city.
Yes.
So she was basically at home in bed with migraines most of the time. I mean, she was a disabled recluse. So most of all, the Red Souls trilogy is her story, in how she manages to control sound waves that are coming to her ears. And really, Jem, who the guardian of the gate that I mentioned earlier, Jem is the first person to really see value um, in Willet's condition, um, real value, and she's the first person that Jem recruits to the Circle of Augustus, because Jem needs to hear voices, um, from the astral plane, and Willet can hear them. She's heard voices all her life, and diagnosed schizophrenic. Her mother thought she was schizophrenic, but actually her hearing was so good that she could hear sounds at vibrational levels that the human ear does not normally hear.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, and that the physical and astral planes are the two planes that are closest to each other. And as it happens, Los Angeles, as the setting for this trilogy, the veil between the physical and astral planes is very thin there. So there's a lot of movement back and forth. It's a very creative city, as you know, Los Angeles, the home of the movie industry. The music industry is there. A lot of creativity in LA, and part of the reason for that is because the veil is so thin, so that people are availing themselves of um, what's going on the astral plane, which is very creative and very unusual. And sometimes it's not unusual for people to have lucid dreams, um, and experience the astral plane. And I can tell you that these stories that I'm writing come to me as lucid dreams, and that's the
Oh,
way I write them. I write them as lucid dreams. Yeah,
that's an incredible source of inspiration.
yeah. Uh, Anybody can avail themselves with the right preparation.
Amazing. So, you've been described as both a writer and a spiritual seeker, as well as a science enthusiast. looking for the place where physics of the universe and spiritual experience unite. I'm guessing that's a big source of inspiration for you as well. And could you tell us a little bit about your findings in that or your interest?
Well, to me, scientific discovery and spiritual experience are two sides of the same coin. They tell us something about our existence and what are we? What are we doing here? How do we exist? Uh, and I think over time those two poles will come closer and closer together, and it's already started happening in physics with quantum mechanics. Because in quantum mechanics, they're discovering what they call the multiverse, uh, different from the metaverse. I'm not talking about Zuckerberg's metaverse, but they call it the multiverse, which are different vibrational states of a particular quantum particle. That the state doesn't settle until somebody observes it. So then it settles on a vibrational state, which are multiple, you can say multiple worlds. And it's never been the case that physics has come so far in this direction of considering consciousness when in experiments, where the conscious observer is an important part of the experiments they do in quantum mechanics. And it's no coincidence that the Nobel Prize in Physics this year was won by the guy who discovered quantum entanglement. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, but quantum entanglement refers to the fact that two particles separated by vast distances can be linked in their spin and their orientation. That's quantum entanglement. So through getting back to the Red Souls trilogy, there's various points where the relevance of something in physics is so obvious that I had to point it out. And Dean, who is one of the members of the Circle of Augustus, is the character that gives voice to this, as they go along about, vibratory levels and black holes and there's a lot of talk about time tracks, and especially in the third book. So he's the one that brings it up because he has an engineering background. So I don't go out of my way to write science fiction. It's just that the science references are, just present themselves as the book goes along, and I have to work them in.
Exactly. Yeah, they just appear.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. So tell us, I know we've already talked a little bit about Willett. Tell us a little more about Jem. I know we've introduced her already. She's a 170-year-old master of the freezing breath. What is her role, and is there an real-life inspiration for this character?
Well, she is she's like Yoda in a way, if you refer to that movie series. But her job is to protect Los Angeles from attacks from the astral underworld. And every major city, as we find out, has such a guardian. Because when people, many people gather and there's a lot of development of opinions, I guess I would say. It's easy for the veil between the planes to be breached. So that's a the metaphor for that is the Astral Gate. So that's been her job for 120 years. She was born in the American South during the Civil War, pre-Civil War and Civil War period. She's black. She, you know, experienced, at least her parents did, experienced slavery. But she had the ability to travel out of the body and see with the astral senses at an early age. So she was very precocious in that way. And she came under the tutelage of Augustus at an early age. Augustus is a person. He was the guardian of Rome back in ancient Rome, and it's his circle now. Uh, it has his name anyway, but his Circle of Augustus forms every time there's a real danger from attack. So she's been doing it for 120 years, and she's never had a circle before, and all of a sudden she needs one because there's a lot of negativity in LA. So the first person she seeks out is Willett, because she needs somebody to hear what the underworld souls are saying as they sweep through the streets of Los Angeles, and Willett can hear that. So she becomes what they call the listener, which every Circle of Augustus has a listener. And then after her, her sister Audrey is very much against her getting involved with Jem, because Audrey thinks that Jem is just a lunatic, and that this is all. But Willett wants to pursue it because this is the first time she's ever felt that she had a purpose in life. Well, one thing she can do is listen. She's got that skill. So Jem is amazing, and basically becomes their teacher and tutor in for these four people, in showing them where to look and how to look to see more of reality than they ever suspected was there. She really opens their eyes.
That's amazing. So just to quickly touch on your experience, not only creating this incredible storyline, but just writing, what is it you like most about writing these books, or just writing in general?
Well, it's really having the experience that the reader is going to have. I have the experience first, as I said. It comes to me as a lucid dream, and that's the way I write it. That's why I write in the fantasy genre, because you can have that kind of experience. And then, once I know my characters, and I know these characters pretty well now, and I can just hear them talking, I never know. I don't know. I always have an idea of where the story is going, but the things that come out of their mouths is often a surprise. So the surprise aspect and the discovery aspect of writing is really what I enjoy most.
That's amazing. So just to wrap things up, I wanted to ask, what do you hope readers will take away from Red Souls? And could you possibly give us a sneak peek into the third book yet to come in November, as well as what's maybe next after the trilogy?
Well, I'm hoping, people take away what they will, but I'm hoping that they will see an example of people who have to dig really deep into themselves in order to meet the challenges that they're facing, and that they don't always know why things are happening the way they are, or people in my books don't just sprout powers. to deal with things. It's not that kind of book. They have to dig deep personally uh, to meet the challenges, and they meet a lot of challenges in each book, uh, coming at them through the person of Jat the Deceiver, who is the Lord of the Underworld. He's the one that's orchestrating all this. Um, so I would like readers to see an example of people who have greatness thrust upon them. They say, you're either born to greatness or you have greatness thrust upon you. Well, these people have it thrust upon them in a serious way, and how they figure out and find it in themselves to deal with those challenges is really the point of the book. And in the third book, which comes out in November, is called States of Being. And they meet their biggest challenge of all, because Los Angeles is about to disappear from the face of the earth. Jack the Deceiver his objective is to pull it down into the underworld and make it part of that kingdom. So the third book is about what he's doing to make that happen, and the Circle of Augustus is sorely pressed to figure out what to do, but they go boldly forward and with faith and hope and love for each other. So that's book 3, and the people who have read it so far find it very interesting, exciting. The critics who've read my books think that it's very unique because it is written as a lucid dream, and it's not. It doesn't follow a normal narrative. I mean, it is a story and it is a narrative, but the things that come up are very unusual.
That's amazing. No, I definitely noticed that uniqueness reading Red Souls, so can definitely attest to that. Thank you so much, Susan, for joining us. This was an incredible look into the world of the Red Souls trilogy. I'm so looking forward to the States of Being coming out in November. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I thank you for having me. And one more thing I'm going to add, on my website, susanfbanks.com, I have song lists in my blog. I have a song list for each book, which is the kind of the soundtrack in my mind, my inner soundtrack, lists of songs that I was listening to and organized for each book, so that if anybody wants to see that, susanfbanks.com.
Absolutely, that's incredible. Well, yeah, thank you again. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and so looking forward to the publication of the last book.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you very much.
Of course. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.